Hello and welcome back to the Trainerize YouTube channel. Now, as you all know, sales is a massive part of any fitness business. Today, we're joined by three experts who are all pros when it comes to coaching for personal trainers in business and sales especially. So with the help of these experts, we're gonna learn what it takes to up your sales game and get some practical tips.
The first question I want to ask you guys is, when it comes to sales, I feel like a lot of people struggle with sales because it can be tough. It can push people out of their comfort zone. So in your career, what have you noticed as being the largest obstacles that people kind of deal with when it comes to the topic of sales, and how do you help them work through that? Andrew, did you want to kick it off?
Yeah, it's a big question, right? Because sales isn't just isolated to sales. There's obviously lead generation, marketing, creating an ecosystem, in my opinion, to be able to, get your brand in front of the right people so that when people are actually in front of you, they're ready to make a decision. And hopefully in most cases, they're ready to make a decision with you. So, to answer your question directly, first and foremost, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, when somebody struggles to do something, often you have to look at it in a couple of different components. So the first component is, do they have the strategy, right? Do they have the know-how, the specific, do they know what to say, when to say, how to say? If people never really get through that, then of course they're going to be nervous when they get in front of people. So I know for myself, when I first started selling, this is my 10th year this year. So and there wasn't webinars and trainings and all these online courses back then. I literally went on webinars and I wrote them out word for word. And I put 3 webinars, sales pitches together. And then I was like, right, what are the common themes here? So I really didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I was creating a system and creating a strategy and finding what was working, understanding the psychological triggers. But once you get through that and once you have that, then it's about getting people to actually follow the system, right? And we've coached over 1,000, gym owners and fitness business owners now. So it's like the people that succeed are the ones that follow the process. The people that aren't are the ones that don't. It's not really rocket science. So I think to really simplify, if you don't know what to say, how to say it, then you're not going to be able to close people effectively and I guess negotiate with their thoughts and limitations and beliefs. But once you have the process, then it's ultimately about following the process and having that mindset that you are actually helping somebody solve a problem that they have, right? And when people step in and they take ownership over this in the sales process, and I'm sure the guys will agree, you're actually changing somebody's life. So it's really important that you have that frame, because you are going to push up against people's barriers. They are going to want to push back, but because you're fighting against the limitations that they have in their head, which is why they are where they are in the first place. So ultimately, I think those couple of components are going to be massive for anybody looking to be great at sales.
I want to piggyback on it because then it just segues nicely, because like what you said, Andrew, I totally agree. Like lack of experience in a process is really what stops people from actually being good at sales or even like pushing for sales, because you fundamentally don't know what you're doing. You're just going to avoid it, right? If you don't know how to play golf, you're probably not going to enjoy it. If you don't know how to swim, you're not going to get in a pool. If you don't know how to sell, you're not going to get on a call. So fundamentally, if you don't have a sales process, you don't have something in place, then you're not going to feel confident getting on a call or getting into a consult or getting into that situation, because you're just going to avoid it altogether. And then the second thing is just fear of rejection. All of us here are human beings, right? No one here wants to be rejected, okay? I don't care who you are, you just don't want to be rejected, whether that's from a business partner, a prospect, someone that you're dating, someone that you're about to marry. No one wants to be rejected. And I think a lot of people struggle with this fear of rejection. And it's about having to learn to deal with that, knowing that it's part of the process. And you can't just completely overcome it, but with experience and reps and a process and system, like Andrew mentioned, you can start dealing with it in a better way to actually start making sales.
Love that. Can I piggyback here? Because I want to piggyback off.
Let's piggyback.
That was my fear when I started selling as well. I'd avoid a little things. I wouldn't I wouldn't really be as good of a salesperson as I could because I was scared of rejection. And then I hired a sales coach, and the way they broke it down is they're like, Jono, someone saying no to your fitness program, is it rejection? You know, maybe if like your wife that you've been with 20 years ran off with another guy who happened to be your brother and, you know, took all your money and then never spoke to you again and took your kids again, that's rejection. Someone saying no to your fitness program, that's not rejection. And then when I got that into perspective, that really helped me. So I wanted to piggyback there. And then my thing that I wrote down here was actually a little bit more tactical. I agree 100% with what Alex and Andrew have said. And this probably speaks to maybe people that now are doing some sales calls. They're probably a bit more confident. They're getting on the phone, you know, doing the calls here. A common problem that I see is the tell me about you phase of the sales script. Now, I'm sure everyone here will agree that's the most important part, right? We can't start selling until we know who the person is. And that's when I speak to different trainers and give sales training. That's the part that I feel is missed over. A lot of trainers just can't wait to tell the prospect about their program. Hey, you're going to love it. It's this, and this, you know? Or even some trainers that do have a script. That script will always have questions like, you know, what are your goals? Why do you want it? But I think it's important not just to ask those questions, but really understand them, why you're asking them, and get as good of an answer as you can there for a few different reasons. But the major one, and I think we're going to talk about objections later, you can't handle an objection if you haven't done this part right at the start. So that's the tip I would give trainers, that part where you're finding out what the person is. Get as much info as you can. I don't move on and start telling about my program until I've got their hot button. I'll just keep asking question. Then I'll find out, right, this is what this person wants. This is why they want it. This is what they're missing, why they don't have it. Now I can get to selling my program. And a way I sort of test that is when I look at a sales script, I'll get as much info as I can about the other person. Then I'll sell my program without saying the price. I'll just say, here's what the program is. Before I get to the price, the question I ask is, how does that sound? Now, if they say anything else that isn't, that's perfect, but how much is it? Or, you know, or that's exactly what I need. You know, how do we get started? If I don't get either one of those, I haven't done a good enough job of not so much selling my program, more just asking the correct questions so I can tailor the program to that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you guys. I think that sales is mainly the process of being a good listener. And like you were saying, it's not about just trying to jam your product down somebody's throat. It's about really listening for what they're actually looking for. And like you mentioned, Andrew, the psychological triggers, like why are they looking for training? Because it's not, most people, it's not like, oh, I want to have a six pack. It's like, I don't feel good about myself. It's deeper than that, right? So
yeah, and that's to what Jono was talking to as well. The only thing that I will go back on was something that Alex said. Alex either said or alluded to the fact that you kind of can't get past the fear of rejection, and I completely think that you can, right? Because I was in an office, you know, about a kilometre from here, beautiful office, overlooked the city and Darling Harbour, and you know, great spot in Sydney here, and I was too scared to pick up the phone, and I had no money and no clients, right? And I went through the process, and now myself, and I'm sure the other guys as well, have sold millions and millions of dollars in packages and programs and courses and stuff like that. And I think when you get that, when it flicks in your head and you're like, oh, I'm actually helping someone and I need to know what their problems are, like Jono was talking to, then you can actually go and you can have confidence. And I'm not scared of somebody saying no now. Like often you want to force the no to figure out what that no actually is, to then be able to move through and close the deal for the right person.
I agree with that too. Like I said, it's learning to deal with it. Like more people are going to be struggling with it than others, but like you can feel the fear and do it anyway until you don't necessarily feel it as much anymore. You almost become numb, right, Andrew? Like you've done it so much, you've got so many reps that it just doesn't bother you at this stage, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're just not bothered about the outcome. You're not as attached. And I think that's one of the key things, is detaching from the outcome as much as possible. As soon as you get attached to what someone's going to say, you're vulnerable to feeling rejected. As soon as you detach from the outcome, knowing that probably 45% of people or 30% of people will never buy from you, then you can just like disregard those people and you don't have to emotionally attach yourself to the outcome. And then it affects you less and less, you know? And I think this is what a lot of coaches can learn, over time, but it does take time and it does take reps. Like all of us here have been doing it a long time, but for the newbie coach that's not used to sales, they've got to fight through this. until they get comfortable with doing it, getting comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Also, if you're new to training online, you can start your free 30-day trial of Trainerize by clicking on the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.